The sound of clanging metal and the smell of engine oil filled the small-town garage. Eddie wiped the sweat from his brow with a rag that had seen better days. His hands were cracked, his overalls covered in grease, and his back ached from years of bending over hoods. Still he smiled as he tightened the last bolt on a dented old Buick. "Try it now, ma'am," he said to the frail woman sitting in the driver's seat. The old lady, Miss Ruth, turned the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. Her wrinkled face lit up.
"Oh, thank heavens."
"I didn't think she'd ever run again." Eddie grinned. "Just needed a new alternator belt and some fuel line cleaning. You're good to go." She reached into her worn purse, pulling out a few crumpled bills. "How much do I owe you, son?" Eddie shook his head. "Don't worry about it, ma'am. I had the parts lying around and it didn't take long." Her eyes watered. "You fixed it for free?" He shrugged. "You remind me of my mama. She used to say, 'Always help someone when you can.'" But as Miss Ruth thanked him and drove away, Eddie didn't notice a figure standing by the office door. Mr. Clarkson, the owner of the shop. "Eddie!" Clarkson barked, storming out a minute later. "What the hell was that?" Eddie turned, confused. "What was what, sir?" "I saw you let that old lady go without paying. Do you think this is a charity garage?" "She couldn't afford it," Eddie said quietly. "She said she hadn't eaten a decent meal in 2 days. I just wanted to help." Clarkson's face turned red. "You don't make that decision. Every repair that leaves this shop unpaid comes out of my pocket. You're lucky I don't dock your pay." Eddie's voice wavered. "Sir, I've worked here 10 years. You know I'd never—" "Save it," Clarkson snapped. "Pack your tools. You're done here." Eddie froze. "You're firing me for helping someone?" Clarkson folded his arms. "Exactly. Maybe next time you'll think twice before giving away my money." Eddie left the garage in silence. He had nowhere to go. His wife had passed away 2 years earlier, and his small rented apartment barely held together. He spent the next few days walking the town, looking for work, but no one was hiring mechanics without references. By the 4th day, his savings had run out. He sat on the curb outside a diner, head in his hands, when he heard a familiar voice. "Eddie, is that you?" He looked up. Miss Ruth was standing there holding a small grocery bag. "Oh, Miss Ruth," he said, embarrassed. "Didn't expect to see you again." She frowned at his tired face. "What's wrong?" He sighed. "Got fired. Me boss didn't like that I helped you for free." Her eyes filled with guilt. "Oh dear, that's terrible. I didn't mean for that to happen." "It's not your fault," Eddie said softly. "You just needed help. That's all that matters." But Miss Ruth didn't look convinced. She bit her lip, then asked, "Do you have a place to stay?" Eddie hesitated. "Yeah, for now." It was a lie. He was 3 days behind on rent. She studied him quietly, then nodded. "I'll see you around, Eddie." 2 mornings later, a black SUV rolled up to Clarkson's auto repair. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped out, followed by Miss Ruth, now wearing a neat blue dress and a pearl necklace. Mr. Clarkson nearly dropped his coffee. "Can I help you, sir?" The man nodded. "I'm looking for an Eddie Walker. He used to work here." Clarkson frowned. "That kid?" "Fired him last week. Gave away free labor." Miss Ruth turned to the man. "That's him, Jonathan." "That's the one." Clarkson blinked. "What's this about?" The man, Jonathan Ward, smiled coolly. "Miss Ruth happens to be my mother." Clarkson's jaw dropped. Jonathan continued. "She told me about a mechanic who fixed her car without taking a dime. She also told me how you fired him for it. That man showed more heart than your entire business." Clarkson stammered. I didn't know." "You didn't care," Jonathan interrupted. "You see, Mr. Clarkson, I own Ward Motors, the largest dealership network in 3 states. And I came here for one reason, to find that mechanic and offer him a job." Clarkson's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Miss Ruth looked at him sternly. "You judged him for kindness. That's your loss." Jonathan turned to his assistant. "Send word to Eddie Walker. Tell him he starts Monday as our head service technician. Triple what he was earning here." Later that afternoon, Eddie was sitting by the same diner when a sleek car pulled up beside him. The driver stepped out, smiling. "Mr. Walker?" Yeah?" Eddie said, confused. The man handed him an envelope. "From Jonathan Ward, you're hired." Eddie blinked, stunned. Inside was a job offer, and a check big enough to cover his rent and then some. "Wait," Eddie said, standing. "Miss Ruth, was she?" The driver nodded. "She's Mr. Ward's mother. She wanted you to know she's very grateful." Eddie's throat tightened. "I was just doing what's right." "She knows," the driver said, smiling. "That's exactly why you were chosen." On his first day at Ward Motors, Eddie walked through the spotless service bay, surrounded by high-end tools and new cars. The other mechanics greeted him warmly, but he couldn't stop thinking about how fast life had changed. As he was unpacking his tools, Miss Ruth appeared at the door, smiling proudly. "Thought I'd check on my favorite mechanic," she said. Eddie laughed. "You didn't have to go through all that trouble." She patted his hand. "Son, kindness never goes unnoticed, even when the world seems blind to it. You didn't just fix my car. You reminded me there's still good people out there." Eddie looked around the bright, spotless shop, then at the woman who'd unknowingly changed his life. "Guess it's true what they say," he said softly. "You reap what you sow," Miss Ruth smiled. "And sometimes, when you sow kindness, life pays